Your expedition ventures into a long-sealed cave, untouched by time. Deep inside, you stumble upon a vast chamber. When you shine your light, you freeze. Dozens of men, kneeling in silence, unmoving, but unmistakably alive. How is this possible? For the longest time in that cave, I was alone with my thoughts and the gentle sound of water dripping from the stone. I was at peace as I ventured further down into the belly of the cave, however scared and hopeless I had felt before. That, alone, was disquieting. I knew, perhaps better than most, of the many beasts of the mind eager to lure unwary travelers to their jaws with such false sensations. Still, I trod onward in the darkness with my meager lantern. It didn't matter if it was by choice or by compulsion, the world outside was dying. I was dying, bleeding as I walked, and tainting that untouched stone and water with my blood. The tunnel was large at times and narrow at others. Every so often I thought I had reached the end, but a crack in the wall left enough space for me to pass through. Somehow, I did not tire. I thought I should lay down and rest sometimes, but my feet advanced regardless. I stopped feeling the pain of my wounds. I heard the clinking of my sword striking the ground. I assumed my scabbard had fallen apart. I did not turn back. I kept walking. I tried to think back to how I discovered the cave. The skies had burned red, darkening for months. There was no respite from demons. There was no defense. The people had themselves turned into monsters as the world was rent asunder. I had been a soldier. I stopped being one the moment I fled in terror from the hordes. But even as I tried to hide in the wilderness, I had to fight my way through evil. In the last fight, my fortune left me. I killed the attacker, but I was wounded, left to die into the withered grass. Then the world tore open. It felt like it, at least. Tremors as I had never felt before shook the earth, and it was neither natural nor evil. Looking about me, an opening had formed into what had been a wall of stone. It beckoned to me. Really, my thoughts and the dripping of water on stone were the only things I could cling to in there. The cave slowly took everything else from me. My sword, my coat, whatever of value I carried from the world left me. No, I suppose they simply fell or caught onto some rock, and I didn't see the point of turning back to get them. Even my lantern died, and that I threw away myself. It was dark, but dark doesn't begin to describe that warm, quiet emptiness that surrounded me. I walked on, as I had been for an eternity, and the lack of light didn't hinder me. I knew how to advance. Eventually, I felt as though I reached the end. I had squeezed through another narrow passage, feeling the damp walls hug my form, and I knew the chamber that I reached was my destination. Light followed. Not the light of a torch, not the light of a lantern, not the light of humankind or demonkind by any measure. It was the light of the sun, if the sun had been stripped of that fire that burned when you dared lay eyes on it. I saw them then. People. Kneeling. I thought them statues at first, but they breathed. They lived. All of them were dressed alike, in white robes hard to describe. At their hips stood ready swords of silver. The chamber was itself immense, but they filled it. All were facing one direction, but the object of their reverence appeared to lay further inside. At first I approached a kneeling woman. She was closest to me. I tried to gain her attention, but she simply glanced up at me and lightly nodded forward. She did not appreciate the disturbance, so I walked forward, though a deep weariness began to settle in me. I felt an end was close, yet I didn't know what kind it would be. I walked towards that sun that didn't burn. I walked among them, though I felt I sullied something sacred by simply being there, trudging along in my bloody, tattered clothing. Until I saw it. At first, I thought it was an opening to the world outside, though I was too far beneath the earth for that to be a possibility, and the light didn't have that maddening red hue of the sky. No, it was a giant round crystal, glowing bright. It looked like an eye, watching over us all. Beneath it stood a figure different from the others. I walked closer. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but it held a kind smile and two dark, tired eyes. It sat in a throne of stone, veins of that same light-giving crystal wrapped around its thin, weak frame, holding him in place. "Is the world still dying?" Its words were melodious and sad. "It is," I answered. Questions were racing through my mind, but I felt too tired to voice them. "I see." It sighed. "If you wish, you may wait with us. Otherwise, you may succumb to your wounds." It moved its head to meet my gaze. Its words were spoken gently. "What are you waiting for?" I had to ask, though a part of me understood it was beyond me. "For someone to join us and say that the world is not dying any longer. That she may return, and that we may rise and see her rule once more." Its words were tinged with a painful want. "Who is she?" A pointless question, but I felt bound by common sense to ask it. "You would not know the name, even if I were to speak it, but it would bring me great pain to do so. Forgive me." It answered, and a brief silence followed. The thought occurred to me that silence must have been more natural to both of us than words. Still, the sound of breaking glass disturbed it. It was quick, sharp, and it came from above. A shard of light floated down from the great crystal into their hand. "I am bound to offer you this. Pledge yourself to this cause of which you know nothing, to a ruler you know not the name of, and you may live to see a better world. You may be forgotten by time as all here are, and wait for the day we all await." It spoke as if by rote. "Or I may die? Indeed, I am afraid I have nothing else to offer." I walked closer, and hesitated before I took the shard into my hand. It truly was the peace that I sought. It shattered, but I felt it transform into a vow etched into my soul. One that I willed, and one that I wanted. In that bright light, I was cured. I was clothed and armed, and was imbued with what I felt must have been eternal patience. "Thank you. You may join the others. You will know when the time comes." It spoke once more, as if those words were the last that would fill that chamber in eons. But I felt a whisper from the light, because I had joined it. It told me, in the voice of my queen, to wait before I joined the others. It knew how tired I was, yet it asked a favor of me. I had been heading for my spot among her knights, but I turned back, towards him. His name was Phio. There was uncertainty about him, though I didn't know if he could see with those eyes. I sat by his throne. "Do you not wish to rest?" "I will have plenty of time for that. I want to talk. Don't you want to hear any stories from the outside world? Stave off the quiet for a while longer?" I pushed as much gusto into my words as I could muster. Certainly. But did she?" There was a tremor to his otherwise steady voice. "She never meant to leave you alone for so long." I couldn't see his face, but he must have started crying. "I know." A brief silence befell us once more. "You mentioned stories?" He sounded almost eager. Perhaps I had no hope of grasping their story. I wasn't certain I wanted to. But I was once again a knight, and the order of my queen was to make sure he wasn't lonely any longer.